The flood had come and gone. Its waters receded slowly, like a memory fading from the earth's skin. What it left behind was Silenza Vaz, solemn, quiet, that hung over the hills and valleys. The great cities were no more. Their towers had become mud. The once glorious ziggurats now rested beneath layers of silt, and the few survivors who walked among the wreckage did so as strangers in a world they no longer recognized. Yet even in devastation, life finds a way. Ziusudra, the chosen, emerged from the vessel that had weathered the deluge. With him were the seeds of renewal, not only of crops and creatures, but of culture and memory. His children and their descendants would carry stories of the gods who came from the sky, of the war that shattered heaven, and of the waters that washed the world clean. These stories, half remembered and often transformed, would become the myths of every ancient people, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the Book of Genesis, from the legends of the Andes to the hymns of But beneath the myth, the architects moved once again. Though many Anunnaki had departed Earth after the flood, not all had returned to Nibiru. Some remained, hidden from human eyes. No longer ruling as gods in temples, they retreated into the background, becoming voices behind thrones, architects of influence. They were no longer deities in form, but masters of knowledge, engineers of civilization. They knew the time for open worship had passed. Now was the era of suggestion, of shadows, of hidden rule. With subtle hands, they began to rebuild. First came Sumer. The land between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates was fertile, reborn from the flood's nourishment. Here, the first post-Diluvian cities were raised, Eridu, Uruk-Lagash, not by chance, but by design. The Anunnaki, through chosen humans and hybrid lineages, taught the survivors how to plant by the moon, how to shape clay into bricks, how to build again. They gave them symbols, cuneiform, through which knowledge could be stored and passed. Each city had its patron deity, yet these were more than spirits. They were memories of the Anunnaki, Utu, god of justice and light. These were not mere metaphors. They were echoes of once living beings who had walked among men, now woven into the cultural tapestry to preserve order. The kings who rose during this time claimed they were chosen by the gods, and in many cases, they were, not through divine visions alone, but through blood. The Anunnaki had seeded specific lineages before their departure, hybrids of human and divine essence. These bloodlines were stronger, more charismatic, often more intelligent. They were trained in the ancient knowledge of sacred geometry, the star maps, the resonance frequencies that governed both the material and spiritual planes. These rulers formed the early priest-kings, not just governors of land, but keepers of divine protocol. And so it was that knowledge became power, but not all knowledge was shared. While the common people were taught farming, metallurgy, and basic laws, the deeper truths were hidden, guarded in temples and mystery schools. Here the initiated were taught the codes of the gods, the vibrational patterns of creation, the secrets of life extension, the methods of energetic manipulation. These teachings were passed orally, from master to disciple, protected by oaths and symbols that survived beyond languages. Other civilizations followed the same pattern. In Egypt, the pharaohs ruled as living gods, sons of descendants of Horus. Yet beneath the golden masks and tombs, the teachings of Thothana, the face of Enki, shaped their culture. The construction of pyramids, the alignment with the stars, the balance of math, these were not superstitions, but remnants of Anunnaki science transformed into religion. In the Indus Valley, in South America, in the highlands of Anatolia and the steppes of China, similar stories emerged: sky gods, great floods, divine rulers, and knowledge gifted from above. Across continents, disconnected by geography but united by memory, humans rebuilt with the same blueprint. And yet, not all Anunnaki agreed on the new strategy. Some believed that humanity should be guided openly again. Others insisted on remaining hidden. A quiet schism emerged, one side favoring enlightenment, the other favoring control. The latter formed the foundation of elite secret lineages, guardians not of wisdom, but of power. These groups became the ancestors of what conspiracy theorists now call the hidden hand, invisible forces that steer human history not through armies, but through institutions. Their tools were no longer lightning bolts and skyships, but currency, ideology, and secrecy. Wars were no longer waged for territory alone, but for symbols, flags, creeds, idols. Religion splintered. The gods were broken into pantheons, then demonized or deified selectively. The unified memory of the Anunnaki era faded into fractured myths, but still, the system remained. Rulers continued to trace their bloodlines to the stars. Societies worshipped unknowingly beneath symbols far older than their scriptures. Sacred geometry was encoded into cathedrals. Star alignments guided city planning. The calendar itself, really 165 days, 12 months. 360 degrees was a remnant of celestial understanding passed down from gods long departed. And, while humanity flourished on the surface, deep beneath the veil, those who remembered they waited for the stars to return to their ancient configurations. They waited for Nibiru's next approach. They waited for the age when the veils would be lifted, and the story would continue again, not in stone, but in consciousness, because even hidden the Anunnaki had never truly relinquished their role. They were still watching, and humanity, shaped by them, still stood at the center of a cosmic experiment, not of domination, but of destiny.